Hello everyone, I hope you're well. So you've probably seen recently I've been trying to play different games, check out different games, and there's a new game that came up called Exoborne. Now, I was sponsored to make this video, but they basically had like a sort of like a press event where they talked about the game, what it is, and I wanted to share my thoughts and make a video about it. Now, there's a lot we don't know about this game. They basically released this announcement trailer, and then we had this press event where we get to talk about the gameplay and what it is. So, I'm going to talk about it and my first impressions of this game and whether or not it's going to be good or not, right? So this game is called Exoborne. It's made by the same devs who made Blood Hunt, which was like a pretty unique, what do you call it? It's like a unique battle royale game, I would say. A lot of people like that game, but they've increased their team size now and they're working on this game. It's going to be Unreal Engine 5. It's going to have, it's an extraction shooter, but it's open world. So think along the lines of like DMZ, but with a lot of focus on first cool movement, verticality, and cool nature, right? So we'll play this announcement trailer. I did actually get to see some gameplay, believe it or not, but there's no gameplay in here. The best way I could describe it, it's like you take this third-person sort of extraction shooter game mode where you get gear and also craft gear, and there's this progression system about crafting different gear, and you have this thing called an exo rig, which is essentially like your class in a way, but you can choose to play different classes. Like you can take off different exo rigs and craft your way towards better gear. Some exo rigs may be tankier, some may be giving you more movement, like having grapples and things like that, and hopefully we can showcase it in this announcement trailer a little bit. So basically all these exo rigs have different abilities, and you want to craft and develop them and get them stronger by getting loot in the world, fighting PvE elements. There's also PvP, and then you take the loot, level up your stuff, and there's this sort of overall progression system. There's also a lot of nature as well in terms of like tornadoes. There's literal tornadoes in this game. When I saw the gameplay, I gotta say it was very sort of, I would say, what's the right word to describe it? The overall scale of the game makes it feel almost like in the same elements of like Battlefield, like the big Battlefield maps where you have like dynamic events that happen throughout the game. That's what I kind of imagine would happen with Exoborne. You know, you have like natural elements that can happen, and there'll be like a bunch of public events and missions that you can play as you're in the world, and kind of interacting with these events will probably draw attention to other players, and you may have these PvP fights around these elements, which is pretty cool. Now, obviously, it's an extraction game, so it's not Battle Royale. Essentially, you go in the world, you may have an objective that game, you want to go and do it, and then you extract. Or you may, on the way to extraction, get involved in some PvP action, or you may realize, oh, there's another objective we can go and attack. So it's basically that kind of style of gameplay, much more similar to DMZ, but with a deeper progression. It does have third person, which is going to make it a little bit interesting. There's also vehicles as well. And as you can see, like, you've got a lot of ways to move. Like, there's some glider things here, which is pretty cool. The overall game is just about, like, building your own playstyle in this giant open world. And as you can see, a lot of crazy destruction with the weather effects. A lot of tornadoes and just absolute carnage. Pretty crazy. Yeah, you have this massive open world. Now, my thoughts on extraction games, I actually really like the extraction genre. Like, I think the concept of Escape from Tarkov is really cool, but that game is way too hardcore. Like, you die way too quickly. It's really hard. There's so many mechanics that require you to be just really intense at all times. This one is a little bit more laid back. Obviously, you can die and lose your stuff, or you can kill other players and take their stuff, but you have your exo rig and you have your crafting that is going to evolve over time, and as you play there's still some progression even if you do die. So it's not like the biggest, like, sort of the end of the world if you die, if that makes sense. I'm not sure how the inventory system will work, but I understand that you'll be able to craft better weapons, and there'll be different like rarities of weapons, and that'll determine like how powerful the weapon is and what special effects it will have. But I think no matter what happens, like even if you have the best gear in the game, that doesn't mean you're just gonna stomp through all players. You could be a new player and be good at the game and take out a top tier player as long as you're like using the right gameplay mechanics. So it's supposed to be very balanced in that way. That's what they talked about in the event. So I imagine the core gameplay loop for this game will be like you jump into the world with your friends. You have like different modes of transport. You have vehicles. You can traverse this big open world. You'll see like missions or like objectives that you may want to take part in on the world. You go there, fight PvE. You may get involved in some PvP. You get some better loot, and then you come back to the home once you extract, and it's from there on the main menu where you can do crafting and upgrade your gear and build the right exosuit for you. Like you may decide that you want to be like a tankier player because your friends have got like more mobile, kind of like weaker abilities and stuff. So that's pretty interesting. I think with all these games, it really comes down to like the end game and like a good progression system. And it looks like, at least from what I've seen and what they've talked about, they are focusing on that sort of like long-term progression, could be pretty cool. It's going to be a free-to-play game. It's Unreal Engine 5. Obviously, any game like this has a chance of doing well or doing badly, depending on like the launch. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that it'll be good. Either way, definitely going to check it out. I know that Blood Hunt was a pretty popular game that had its own community. And a lot of people used to tell me that like Blood Hunt has a lot of movement and stuff. I did see zip lines, grapples, the parachute thing we saw in the trailer. There was cars as well. I think the vehicles may play a big part in that. And in terms of movement, there seems to be a big focus on verticality, which I mentioned earlier, but I want to kind of like explain what that means. So you're going to kind of walk up to this big location, and instead of it just being like a town or something, you're gonna have like these massive structures or like a gigantic shipping rig that you have to like make your way up with tons of floors and levels. That is something that kind of a lot of games just never do, right? I mean, we've seen skyscrapers in games and all that, but usually you just go to the top floor or the bottom floor, couple floors in between, but there's this massive focus on massive verticality. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and like what that experience is like, because I haven't really seen that in an open world. I think there's been so many open world games, but nothing like this. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that plays out in terms of gameplay. I'm gonna just have to say, we have to wait for gameplay. Like when the gameplay comes out, we'll get a better look at what this game is and whether or not it's going to be a good time or not. But yeah, it's going to be free to play. You can wishlist it on Steam now. They basically wanted to get in touch and like ask me to make a sponsored video and tell you guys to wishlist it. And they also have a Discord you can join in the description if you want to kind of be involved with this community and keep up to date with news on when it's coming out. But besides that, just wanted to share my opinions on it. I'm all for more games in this space, more extraction shooters, more movement shooters, even more battle royales, as kind of oversaturated as that genre is. More games can only mean good in the grand scheme of things. So hopefully this will be a good one. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.